What's going on, everyone? Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. We got a lot to cover today in the next part of What If Ash won the Hoenn League. But before we get into that, Jesus Fortiras, thank you very much for the support, and sorry if I butchered your name. But also, you guys, analytics are very important, so please take a look at this analytical stat bar right here. Plus, don't forget to check out the subscribe versus unsubscribe, and drop a like and a comment to help fuel the algorithm. Also, if this is your first time here, please don't forget to turn on the notifications button and to subscribe, so that way you'll never miss another upload from the channel. But with all that being said, let's get into What If Ash Won the Hoenn League, Part 13. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's story in a tower that was built on a man-made area in the southern seas of Hoenn. This place is the Battle Tower, a place that was created to attract the most powerful trainers in all of the region to test their skills as a trainer. However, this tower has a dual purpose. It is the tallest building in the whole region. As such, at the very top sits a research station that is used to track weather patterns across the region, as well as tracking objects that are close to the planet in outer space. The person in charge of this place is known as Dr. Lund. He is the one that is responsible for the construction of not only the tower, but the entire city known as La Rousse that surrounds it. This is where we find the professor as he is tracking several phenomenon. The storms in the seas of Hoenn have been growing more dangerous by the day. The lands of the region seem to have taken on a life of their own, with the long dormant Mount Chimney awakening after countless years of being inactive. Then there is this, as we pan out to see the professor staring at a screen of something that is being tracked, moving in the solar system. It has been moving in their direction for years, and the deep space scanners that the Moss Deep Space Center had launched a few years back proved to be unreliable when giving precise information, size, mass, weight, or trajectory. However, as the months whizzed by and the object got closer, Lund was able to paint a more complete picture. Unfortunately, it is one of doom, with all of his calculations projecting that the massive object would slam into the region of Hoenn, with enough force to not only end life, but block out over 70% of the sun on the planet, threatening all living life. Having trapped the objects for many years, Lund has made many contacts, including one that we're going to meet now.
Dr. Lund, please tell me, do you have some good news?
Turning, Lund sees one of his oldest friends, the champion of the Hoenn region, Stephen Stone. I'm afraid things have not changed. The storm over the south seas of Hoenn appears to be influencing the object.
In what way do you mean influencing?
Lund explains that as the storm intensifies, the object appears to change its trajectory ever so slightly, like it's tracking the storm. I've never seen anything like this in my life. However, that's not all. I've been tracking the seismic activity that has been emanating from Mount Chimney. It seems our celestial friend is also responding to it as well. At first, it didn't have any effect on it, but as the activity grew, the object would react. Now, it appears to be a tug of war in the stars. This is what I've tracked over the last week. As you can see, the movements are frequent.
This certainly is a strange turn of events. Why do you think that this is?
It isn't clear as of yet, but if I was a betting man, I would think that someone should check on Mount Chimney. I have a feeling that what is happening there will be just as bad as this storm.
I'm already way ahead of you on that. I sent Sydney and Glacia to investigate. After what happened at Mount Pyre, I think this whole event has been influenced by the workings of both Team Aqua and Team Magma.
That could very well be true. Those eco-terrorists have always been out of control, and their extreme views threaten everyone. But unfortunately, these are not the only problems that we face. This causes Stephen to become concerned, as he cocks an eyebrow to Lund, pushing a button that causes something to rise up from the floor in a metal tube. There on the stand sits a purple stone that glows in an azure hue. Lund then turns to look out the window to the seas just off the shore of the city. Since I found this at the bottom of the sea just out there, it has never once glowed, but within the last 24 hours, it has become active.
Does this pose any threat to us?
Not that I can tell, but there is something of far greater concern. This stone seems to be giving off the same energy signature of the object heading to Earth. The closer it gets, the stronger the readings. Stephen looks deep within the stone, considering their next options, as, from the way things stand, it is looking very bleak. Now we shift our perspective, however, it's not to where, But when? This is the distant past, when the world was chaotic and unstable. The creatures we know as Pokemon were hostile. However, in the place we know as Hoenn, there were two that could not contain their disdain for each other, the ones we call Kyogre and Groudon. Eternal enemies locked in a battle of dominance for land and sea. However, neither side could ever gain the advantage. But then, one day, in the southern part of the region where the land and sea meet, things changed. As the two titans of elements battled to expand their kingdoms, they were brought to an unexpected halt when something fell from the stars. It hit the earth with enough force that the two, for the first time, were forced into a hibernation, bringing a peace to the region that had never been known. This allowed for life to begin to take hold in the desolate region, as Pokemon and humans alike began to carve out lives of their own, never knowing the true terror that rested just below the surface of land and sea. However, all good things eventually come to an end, and after untold generations of humans and Pokemon existing in harmony, it was all crushed when the two behemoths awakened and began to wage war once again, showing no regard for the life that had been allowed to thrive in their absence. The war was once again raging as if it had never stopped. This proceeded for many years, until once again, as if it were fate, on the site of their most savage battle yet, the same place they were when the stars dropped on them, another celestial body impacted the region, setting things into even greater chaos. However, this time, there was something different. Humans had watched this event and learned that whatever had fallen to Earth had some sort of effect on the two titans. It wasn't the impact that put them to sleep, but the overload of energy from them being exposed to something that wasn't natural to this world. The humans saw this as an opportunity to end their suffering. The last surviving of the region used what little resources they had to find the saviors that quelled the fighting. They searched the seas of South Hoenn for centuries with no luck, but then one day that changed. Below the surface of the water, the ancient humans of Hoenn found not one, but two crystals that glowed of ruby and sapphire. They radiated with an energy that could be used to bound the elements of nature to the whims of man. Knowing this was the salvation that they had spent generations looking for, man took the crystals and fashioned two orbs of them. With these, man was ready for the next time the two destroyers awakened. It would take another millennia before this prophecy had come to pass. During this time, humanity evolved and began to develop cultures. These new humans became known as the people of the land and water. They lived in harmony with each other, protecting the natural balance of things. However, not everyone shared their same beliefs. There was once a third tribe known as the people of the sky. They believed that nature was something that wasn't meant to be controlled by man. So, when the titans of land and sea awoke again, they watched as they were subjugated by the will of man. However, things seemed peaceful. The people of the sky knew that this was just a temporary solution, whether by the hands of man or the force of nature. Kyogre and Groudon would not remain in servitude forever. Time would pass another 2 millennia, and the people of the sky would fade into obscurity as the tribes of land and sea grew. But all empires eventually meet their end. Just like the predictions of the sky, man had grown greedy, and the two cultures began to war over natural resources, using the titans to do their bidding. This resulted in Hoenn and the rest of the world being brought to the brink of destruction. There they were, the people of land and sea, standing on the site of all of the other battles of the titans, where land and sea meet. The two sides stood opposite of each other, looking to secure their place atop of the food chain. However, there was one thing they had overlooked: the people of the sky. While they had not been seen in many years, they were still very much alive. They knew this would eventually be the outcome, so in order to prepare, they receded to a place of the ancient battles, where they had found the two crystals so long ago. It was here they built a mighty fortress, a tower that rose into the sky. It was so high that the clouds obscured the top of the tower. From the point of construction, the people of the sky chose to live in isolation. The reason is because they felt betrayed by the other two tribes, as they had all at one time been the same, but they lost sight of the true way, the path of nature. So, the tower was created in order to honor nature and bring balance back to the world. Now, here on the site where land, sea, and sky meet, all three stood with the two titans of nature, ready to end the life of anyone who opposed the opposite side. In this moment, the two orbs of land and sea cast their glow across the tribes as the call of war rang. Suddenly, tidal waves and earthquakes ravaged the area. Magma spewed from within the earth as water fell from the sky. On this day, the full power of Kyogre and Groudon was unleashed, their pent-up fury now on full display. Something was soon realized. The two were no longer under the control of man. Their wrath was unforgiving, and the greedy nature of man was the cause. The power unleashed that day would change the face of Hoenn forever. Land cracked, and water now covered the area. The vibrations of the earth caused the tower to begin to crack at its foundations. Kyogre and Groudon raged, exposed to the radiation of the orbs. As the tower began to crumble, the people of the sky did the only thing that they could. They unleashed their guardian, using the power that they had kept hidden in their tower, the Emerald Orb, and the Lord of the Skies, Rayquaza. The mighty beast of the sky answered the call of its people, descending from the atmosphere to protect life as they knew it. However, the battle was not one that would be easy. The serpent had to face off against not one, but two foes in a battle that again changed the face of the region, drowning the land around the tower, turning it into 3 separate parcels of land in the middle of the ocean. However, this wasn't the end of the destruction. As the 3 prepared their final attack, the Emerald Orb's shine cast out the light of the other 2, as it and Rayquaza synchronized and launched its final attack to overtake the 2 beasts of land and sea. This resulted in the 3 orbs shattering into pieces and scattering to the 4 winds of Hoenn from the force of the explosion, with only a small chunk of red and blue orbs remaining in its wake. In the end, Rayquaza was the victor, returning to the clouds to heal from the traumatic battle, leaving what was left of the humans to clean up their mess. I say what was left because where the mighty sky-high tower once existed, now only an island stood bearing no markers that there was ever a structure to begin with. This left the people of the land and sea to mourn the loss of their brethren. Now seeing the error in their ways, the 2 tribes took the now slumbering titans and chose to lock them away. So the people of the water moved Kyogre into the Sea Temple and secured it within the structure, using part of the fragmented red orb to keep it slumbering. Then, to make sure no one would ever try to use its power again, they separated the temple from its land prison and cast it into the seas to never be seen again. While the people of the land did something similar. They moved Groudon to their most sacred temple, built into the only volcano left in the region. At the core, in a chamber of magma, they lay the Goliath to sleep. Then, to make sure no one would ever find it or the piece of the blue orb that remained, they sealed the mountain. The only way in would be through the top. And in their mind, only a suicidal fool would try that. Then they proceeded to erase whatever they could of their history so that no one could ever find Groudon. Then, to make sure no one would ever know the history of the region, the people of the land left Hoenn, putting as much distance between them and the shame of their past as possible. Over time, the War of the Ancients faded from memory. The people of the water remained in history as a kind of seafaring tribe that eventually became the modern people of Hoenn. The people of the land were all but erased from history, and the people of sky became the stuff of myth, the lost tribe of Hoenn that may or may not have existed. This brings us to the modern day. It was a week after what Ash had gone through at Mount Pyre when Phoebe was informing the Elite Four and the Champion, who were in Rustboro City, about what happened with their grandparents. Glacia goes on to comment that those eco-terrorists are becoming very bothersome. They are meddling with forces they can't understand. Phoebe agrees with the Elder Elite, stating that they are attacking anyone to get what they want. According to her grandfather, all they need is the prince in order to find the Sea Temple. This is where Stephen speaks up. According to Wallace and Juan, the prince is a very real thing, a Pokemon that is said to hatch from an egg every 1,000 years. They both stated that it is hidden in the ruins of the people of the water on Monsu Island. Phoebe is shocked to learn that the prince is actually a Pokemon and is still around. She states they need to secure it. Stephen informs her not to worry. He instructed Wallace and Juan to move the egg to the Cave of Origin in Sutopolis. This way, they can keep a close eye on it. As a matter of fact, I'll be heading there after this. While this lends a ray of hope to the dire situation, Sydney speaks up, stating that he hates to be the bearer of more bad news, but he was just sent a letter by his friend Butler. Apparently, Team Magma has found the final piece of the blue orb and are now on their way to the location of Groudon. According to Butler, they are headed to Mount Chimney, as they believe Groudon is sealed inside of it. Stephen declares that it is time for them to step in. He assigns Glacia and Sydney to Mount Chimney, even though the ice specialist protests. However, Stephen tells her there will be none of that. There is no time for personal issues. The region is at stake, Drake. Reluctantly, Glacia relents. This leaves Phoebe, who Steven assigns back to Mount Pyre. If Team Aqua was there, then it's very possible that Team Magma may be there as well. This just leaves Drake, who has been silent the entire time. Steven asks him if Drake will take him and his father to Sutopolis City. The Dragon Master nods, stating that he will, but he will be patrolling the seas afterward, looking for any signs of Team Aqua. If he can put a stop to them, then he will use all the power at his disposal. Steven nods, stating that he has a connection that will be joining them in Sutopolis City. Now, they all have their assignments, so they need to get moving. With that, they break, spreading across the region in hopes that they are not too late to save it. This leads us straight into the events right before Ash and Jackie had found the Temple of the Sea. Sydney and Glacia are in the main chamber of the Land Temple. Before them, Maxie and Tabitha stand, with the blue orb ready to join the final piece to it. Below them, in a pool of magma, Groudon slumbers, awaiting the day it awakens. Both Sydney and Glacia find themselves in a situation where they are outnumbered, so the only thing that they can do is plead to the humanity of Maxie. However, the Magma leader refuses to let Team Aqua win. They aim to unleash destruction upon us all. Then, before the elites can say anything, Maxie joins the orb, and the volcano begins to shake violently. Realizing they need to get out, Sydney and Glacia abandon their mission. Suddenly, things turn south, as the last thing the two see is Maxie being swallowed by the orb, then Groudon consuming the Magma leader. The two then take off running for their lives, dodging falling rubble, only to make it outside. Wasting no time, the two elites basically tumble down the side of Mount Chimney, hoping to avoid their own end. But this is futile, as the last thing they see is Groudon emerging from the top of the volcano, unleashing its power for the first time in centuries. Now we shift perspective back to LaRue City. It's here we see a small boy named Tori. He's very shy due to an incident that had happened when he was a small child. Because of this, he spends most of his time indoors playing in his father's garden. However, he's not alone, as he has a very special friend that joins him, glowing light unlike anything anyone has ever seen. It is on this day that we find Tori playing with his special friend, enjoying life. The two are in the middle of a game of hide-and-go-seek when the alarms in the building start going off. However, these aren't just any alarms. They are only sounded when the city is to be evacuated. Tori, in his confusion, is unsure of what to do, so the boy stays in the place he is hiding, hoping that his father will come save him. As the building trembles, we pan outside to see the source of the pandemonium. Groudon and Kyogre are approaching, Fury in their wake, ready to reignite their rivalry on the same battlefield they had so many times before. As this is happening, we move to the point to where we find the Dragon Master Drake, as he is arriving on a lone island that is on the seas just outside of what is considered the modern borders of the Hoenn region. This island is so remote that most consider it to be a mirage. While that alone is interesting, that's not what makes this island unique. It is the home of the largest peak in all of the ancient borders of Hoenn, even taller than Mount Chimney or Pyre. It is here we see Drake landing on the summit, only to recall his elements. We then see him walk to a lone altar in the center of the summit that is adorned with the mark of the people of the sky. Drake caresses it, stating that this is the last remnants of a dead people. However, it must once again fulfill its purpose. Drake then pulls out an orb glowing in an emerald light and places it on the altar. Guardian of the sky, we need you once again. And this is where we are going to leave things so tell me, what did you guys think about this part? How did you feel about the backstory I crafted for the Hoenn region and its ancient past? Did you like how I connected all of the events of the series leading up to this point? Who was the boy Tori, and what is his importance in the oncoming parts? And just who exactly is Drake, and what is his connection to Rayquaza? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below.